Hey guys, going to talk about PBLA. This was quick pre-market pop. As you see here, 40% move on 60K volume. By the time I saw it, it was on this push. And, usually on a quick pre-market pop, I like to see the pullback, and then I like to see the second push. So I was really hoping this would bounce off, the 150s. I saw it dip into the 140s, and at least push like 1.6 or this 1.67 1 minute high. Didn't get it. A lot of these ones that dump right away, I'm not in. There's a lot of short sellers who will just start smacking this on this candle and this candle. I was debating it, but I was like, I'll wait to see if there's a push. There wasn't a push. I'm not in a trade. Um, and then it pulls back, and I'm like, all right, well, maybe I get some consolidation, some type of push in the VWAP that I can read the tape, read the structure, see if I could get maybe just a VWAP short out of it. And then it just starts to roll over. And during this rollover, somebody flashed 70,000 shares on the ask at 1.29 to force this rollover. And then once this got to the bottom, they pulled the ask and then started rotating it back up. And then I saw, so I'm looking at this pre-market action of big bid. Whenever you see like these like big 50K, 100K bids and asks come out of nowhere, usually, because the stock will be like, it'll be like 5,000 shares on the bid, 5,000 shares on the ask, and then like an 80,000 share ask comes along. It's usually just a sign in low floats that in the pre-market that the stock is being controlled in some way. Now, does that mean it's going to squeeze high today or do some crazy thing? That's not what it means, but I am expecting some type of rigged move to come along, and we saw it on this pullback here. We saw this pullback. I didn't take this pullback. We saw the pullback here, and then we saw the same. There was like a 70K bid, a 90K ask, and I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe this stays. I was hoping this would stay in this range, like near VWAP, and then make some type of 1.5, 1.6 push. That would have been great. Um, maybe get above this lower high, get above 1.5. That'd be really cool. But then in the market open, what do we see? We see a walk down, a controlled walk down. So I saw the bid in the ask games, and then I saw this down only, lower highs, lower lows, and a lot of times with this type of pattern, it can actually be bullish, right? A good example is CDIO, but CDIO was a little bit of a different chart, but I'm still overall net bullish a pattern like this. I expect some type of, especially if the market open volume's there, which it was 1.5 million, 1 million. I'm like, all right, they walked this down. There's all these bids and ask games in the pre-market. I start reading the book map. I notice on the book map that the way this pattern usually works is they show some weakness at market open, just like CDIO, and then you'll start them saying stack the bid. I saw them stacking 1.08 down here. And usually the way it works is it bounces off this bid a few times and then initiates and goes straight up, right? And in really strong markets, it can really, really go. But as we're watching here, this push didn't go, but the volume is still really consistent. I'm like, okay, that push didn't go, but they're still soaking. They're still soaking. And I'm like, okay, maybe this push goes. As a second bounce off these bids. They came up down to these bids, didn't even test them. All the bids were still there. I'm like, let me see if it pushes. Stuffs again. Okay, so I see this 1.2, 1.2 level. Okay, and I'm still seeing the volume. Like, the volume's still there. The bids are still there. And I'm just like, man, like, usually in longs, and a lot of people in my room quote me on this because it's something I said before. Like, the longer a long takes to go, the less likely it is to work. Usually, market open should be quick. Market open patterns should be are like 5-10 minute patterns, man. You don't like there isn't 30 minutes of soaking. Especially during a week where a lot of small caps aren't showing, the TPST and all the SECO and all those trades are kind of gone. There hasn't been a new runner. There hasn't, all these runners have been like these thick float, good news biotech names. Those are not low floats. I'm talking in, the 1 million, 2 million, 3 million float space. There hasn't been like a new big runner to show us that the market is strong, right? Um, so now I'm seeing something really interesting here, and what we're seeing, and this is always true in low floats, you're seeing a very obvious flag or pennant, whatever you want to call it. I don't care, wedge, whatever you want to call it. Seeing a very obvious retail long pattern, right? Where it's just like he's descending lower highs, he's ascending higher lows. Um, and the way a very common long pattern is, well, a high volume breakout, right? So in low floats, biggest lesson always is if you ever see a very painted long pattern that retail knows about, and they see this initiation, I was hoping this was like, all right, 1.2 is painted, VWAP's right here. They're just gonna at least swipe 1.2, and then we could see how strong this really is. It's just gonna swipe 1.2, come back down. In that case, I would be, looking to short it. If it holds up and the volume's still there, or if it's just like green candle, green candle, green, okay, cool. Maybe we get the 1.5 or something crazy. And what we get is an instant sell-off. This barely touched 1.2. I saw all the offers on the book map. I actually see it here on this push. Let's go all the way over to the push. Like we got a big 1.9 break. Some shares it tapped 1.2 probably from some stop losses there, and then just instantly pulls back. There's no buying up here. This is 1.9, no buying, no buying, no buying, no buying, and then it just starts selling off. And I'm like, man, this spent 30 minutes in this flag just to do this weak push and instantly reject it. And when I saw this candle, I just went short 1.16, only half the size. Like, I was really looking for a bigger move. But one of the big lessons is always keep it, pay attention to like any type of retail long pattern that retail can easily read on low floats. So if we go to this SASI on this day, the 13th, we saw the same thing. And this is especially true if the stock is already squeezed multiple times. We saw the same thing. Sorry, there we go. Here's these higher lows, here's these lower highs, here's the high volume breakout. Again, like this is why the real long patterns and low floats are always stuff like this. Like the real long is down here, then whenever you get a clean long pattern, it never works. You know what I mean? A lot of these are your retail traps, and this is like your actual long pattern down here. But it's the same thing as PBLA today. We got your descending lower highs, ascending higher lows, big volume breakout. And yeah, this really just goes to show how weak the market is. They couldn't even, and keep in mind, like this is a 3 million float stock. This float rotation, this was like 20 million shares between here, maybe not 20, like 15 million shares between here and here. That was a 4x, 5x float rotation in this stock. And one theory about what most traders have that I talk to about float rotation is like most of the volume is very likely the rigor exchanging shares in between themselves, right? It's probably done through multiple accounts where essentially a lot of the volume, a lot of bids, a lot of the ask, a lot of the movement, it's the same thing with these big, when you see big bids and big ask in the pre-market, and a lot of them are getting filled. A lot of them are, some of these bids were getting 70K shares on the bid were getting filled, and the 1.20s and 100,000 share ask was getting filled, and all this type of stuff. Like, a lot of that is probably just volume exchanging hands between the riggers. They're just exchanging shares back and forth, making it seem like the stock's a lot more liquid than what it is. But my guess is they're trying to gauge how many people are in this stock, right? How much liquidity they're actually, but that isn't their liquidity, is actually in the stock. If there's a lot of liquidity in the play, the more liquidity from other people, the more liquidity in the market, the bigger the moves they can make. The less liquidity in the market, the less liquidity from other people. It's pretty much them just moving the shares back and forth between each other. They make their move, and then that's all the liquidity the stock has, and it pulls. That's one theory. I think that probably holds some weight. especially in these tiny float stocks where it's like, well, if the float rotated 5 times, you'd expect some type of big move, but really nothing came out of it. So anyway, yeah, and then I just shorted that. I got instant confirmation. Here's your low volume after, the retail long trap. And I was like, well, I'll just hold for the 108 crack because that was a. By the way, that's why this was holding. These wicks were holding here because that bid, um, which was at market open here, was holding the whole day. The bid gets cracked and then it bounces near one, and I was like, okay, I'll just wait for a $1 crack, and then we finally got it. One thing you need to know about this type of price action really is um, thin stocks. If they're going to crack to something like the 5-minute 200, which you see right here, usually the thinner the stock gets, the longer it takes for the stock to crack to the next support level, right? So, you'll get support cracks at market open when the volume's the highest relatively quickly. And then sometimes could take an hour for the next one, could take 2 hours for the next one, right? It just like a lot of times it just takes progressively more and more and more time. Um, and a lot of times you'll see like on this, you'll see higher low, high. You'll see like an hour and a half of higher lows followed by 10 minutes of dumping, right? And then like you know an hour and a half of higher lows followed by 10 minutes of dumping. You know what I mean? It's pretty much how it works. They really want to fake you out with the higher lows and the excessive amount of time it's taking, and the volume coming in, and stuff like that. They really do want to fake you out. But in this case, I just sent an alert below one, and I was like, I'll just wait for the one crack. And at that point, I just covered everything. I was actually looking at the chart when this happened, so I covered everything on the crack. And yeah, weak market stuff. But I was saying in the Discord, I was like, well, the pre-market pop pattern is bearish, right? This is a bearish pattern, and then the market conditions are bearish. So you're always like going into a play, you're always trying to add up the factors in your head, so that way when if I have a thesis that like there's a lot of pre-market accumulation, there's bid and ask games, 100K on the bid, 100K to ask, and you know I'm going to expect volume at market open. I'm going to expect some type of move, but ultimately the market conditions carry huge weight. Um, we saw somebody. I want to shout him out. Uh, in my Discord, a guy named Little Pup actually said, uh, he's like, Jason, a lot of these control walkdowns in the market open have been they've been pushing and then they just instantly fade. I was like, yeah, you're right. Like we saw it with MNPR yesterday. Here's your controlled walk down in the open. Same thing, controlled walk down. There were bids catching this, so it pulled to this wick, and they stacked a bunch of bids down here. So you get the walk down, you get the bid stacks, just like CDIO, um, but no follow through, right? And here's an example of CDIO actually working. Um, here's your controlled walk down. Bid stacks at market open at 27 cents. Big push. Difference I think is CDIO. Pennies are just way stronger than $1, $2 tiny flow stocks this year. Pennies have just been stronger. This gap wasn't as big. There wasn't as many bag holders in this pre-market gap because this is pretty much was a quick pop and a quick pullback. So there wasn't 20 million shares already traded in the pre-market and that type of thing. And it's at a good daily level to bounce off of where by the way, VYNE was another one that also had a pre-market pop, just like PBLA, on very thin volume, right? Pre-market pop, almost 80%, and then this also had a controlled walk down in the market open with the bids. And I remember I longed this, and I got some follow through, but no bids followed this up, and the offers up here were stacked really heavy, and they just pulled it, right? So controlled walk down, push, fail. We saw that 3 times, and only on CDAO, only the least gapped up penny runner with the daily support really pushed, and all of these, VYNE, MNPR, and PBLA today all faded, right? So very interesting stuff. Sucks, man. Besides, it's bad when every low flow. I mean, it's great if you caught this right at the top. I was hoping for another push. I was hoping to get into 160s and that type of thing. Didn't hit this pop. I thought, actually, because a lot of times this could be bullish when you see a lot of accumulation like this. You get patterns like this and it rotates back up. Guess it's just not the market for it. It's funny. This same price action in a totally different market produces totally different results, right? Like the same technicals with the same volume just produces different results based on the market conditions. It's kind of very interesting. So just an important factor. But yeah, PBLA made like I don't know 18, 20 cents on this. And then that was my main play. And then the other one was CLLS. By the way, good news biotechs, man. They could just this could get really thin, and maybe this just keeps grinding, man. This could just keep grinding and grinding and grinding. This had like this is kind of flagging on on the 15-minute, like lower high, higher lows, getting really really tight. Who knows? It's good news biotechs, man. They're scary. Uh, and yeah, so PBLA, that's about it. I thought it'd be a lot stronger than it was. I was really hoping for a bigger push. I made a judgment call on the retail long trap, and yeah, it ended up working out because the market's so weak. So, by the way, this was a single order. This didn't actually go up this high. So, this only reached like 112s. So, okay, guys, hope that was good. See ya.